have you guys seen this? Tom Homan getting a warm welcome. I'm being facetious. Up in Albany, New York. He decided to pay a visit to the state's capital, and look at the reception he got. Do you see him? He's coming through the crowd eating an apple. Oh, there he is, waving. He's willing to put up with any of it, right? If all of us could be as calm as Tom Homan, I give him so much credit. I've known him for many years, and he's just the salt of the earth. And he's getting heckled by Tom, Dick, and Harry there, including, by the way, an assemblyman who wants to run for mayor. He's getting heckled by all these people, and he's like, hey, bring it on, whatever. I'm just munching on my apple. I'm here for a reason, and I'm committed to that reason. I'm committed to my cause. You know, when we talk about authenticity and the lack of authenticity in, say, like a Michelle Obama or a Meghan Markle or a Rachel Zegler, this guy has all that authenticity in spades. He is what you believe he is, right? You get what you get. That is one Tom Homan, and he's committed to the cause of making sure that we get illegals out of the country, and he doesn't care how he has to do it. Here he is basically giving quite a warning to one Kathy Hochul, one Letitia James, one AOC, anybody in the state of New York who is in his way. He's making sure that he's gonna, how do I say this? Mow him right down? Because ICE isn't kidding, and Tom Homan isn't kidding. And if he has to flood the state of New York and the city of New York with ICE officers, he's willing to do it. Watch.
Criminal alien should be deported. What's one of the first things she do? She goes down to New York City and tries to fire the mayor who wants to help me find public safety threats. Let me give a shout at Mayor Adams. Like him or love him, I called him up for 2 years by not doing enough. As a career cop, he wasn't doing enough. But when I sat down with him back in November, he came to the table. He wanted to help on significant public safety threats. He don't want to be an immigration officer. I don't want to be an immigration officer. But the mere fact he wants to get us into Rikers Island, where people are locked up because they committed a crime, he wanted to get federal immigration authorities back into Rikers Island to talk to illegal aliens who committed a crime against a citizen.
So in other words, he appreciates what Eric Adams is doing. The mayor of New York is coming forward saying, hey, you want to round up these criminals? I'm here with you. Don't forget, it was the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, that said we're not going to give out $350 to every illegal migrant that's coming in here, staying in a free hotel for 6 months with daily maid service. No. That's ending. $350 in food? They'd get like little credit cards. And the whole thinking from the left was, oh, they have to have them because they need ethnically appropriate food. Are you kidding me? On top of it, you have a hotel owned by Pakistan, the old Roosevelt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan, a former luxury hotel that was hard, down on its luck, not able to make any money. And the next thing you know, we are writing a check, U.S. taxpayers, to Pakistan to house the illegal aliens in the hotel. Like, it makes literally no sense. It doesn't make any economic sense. It doesn't make any sense from a national security standpoint. And he's calling it out, along with Doge, along with the President of the United States, along with, give him credit, Eric Adams. But now that Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, who's a former cop, right, who wants to make sure that you get the bad guys off the street and is saying, hey, here you go. You go into Rikers, you get the bad guys, you export them, you get them out of the country. And the governor is in the way of that. And AOC is in the way of that. And he's like, I've had it. This is not how it's going to work. So now AOC is looking at being charged by the DOJ. She's all worked up about it. She sent a letter, to Pam Bondi demanding to know whether or not she's going to be charged, because certainly Tom Homan's making it very clear, you're in violation of law. You're impeding law enforcement. And when you do that, that actually gives us jurisdiction over you. And so this has become something that I think AOC is getting a bit nervous about, hence the interview. Maybe you've seen this, maybe you haven't. She was on NPR the other day speaking out about why she felt so much that she had to defend her quote unquote constituents, which just gets me, because these are, I'm sorry, they're not your constituents. These are people that are here illegally. And if you actually think that they are your constituents, then we have a whole other problem we have to talk about now, don't we?
You had a recent dispute, if that's the right word, with Tom Homan, the president's Homeland Security czar, so-called. You held an online forum, a Know Your Rights forum, that he didn't like. What were you doing? What was your goal as you saw it?
My job is to educate and act as a liaison of critical information to my constituents. And I was informing all of my constituents of their constitutional protections, and in particular, their constitutional protections against illegal search and seizure in the United States.
He doesn't know what to say.
Homan was upset, I suppose, because he felt that you were giving advice to people who were here illegally. Were you?
Yeah.
I was giving advice to all of my constituents.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
He said he was going to report you, or even that he did reach out to the Department of Justice. Have you heard from the Department of Justice?
I have not, and I intend on reaching out to the Department of Justice to inquire.
Really? What would your question be for the Department of Justice?
Well, there is a member of the Trump administration who is threatening and seeks to open an inquiry, and are you going to do it?
That would be Tom Homan.
What would you learn? What do you hope to learn from that exchange?
I think it's important to know where this administration stands and if they intend on using political intimidation to silence their critics.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. By the way, I'm just looking at the chat and I'm laughing at you guys because you are making some comments on the, maybe it was bad lighting. Maybe it was bad lighting. That's all. I don't know. We'll see. Some questions about her appearance. Lighting can make or break you. So it could just be the lighting or it could be something else. We don't know. We won't speculate quite on that, but I will speculate on this. I think that she actually is going to find herself charged by the DOJ. She's asking questions as to whether or not she's going to be. Look, I mean, Letitia's already been charged by Pam Bondi. You've already got mayors that are being referred for criminal prosecution by Congress. I mean, these mayors were being asked, hey, how much money are you spending on illegals? The Chicago guy was clueless. Boston, they didn't even know. Michelle Wu's like, oh, we don't keep track of that because we don't distinguish between people who are here legally and people who aren't, which in and of itself, guys, in and of itself is a massive issue, right? Like if you can't even distinguish, if you're just spending money indiscriminately, that's our taxpayer money, then yeah, you know what? I think they get a right to go after you for that. So here are these mayors. I love this soundbite. I love Byron, by the way. Byron Donaldson, fantastic guy, knows a thing or two about economics. Used to be a financial advisor. Those are rare on Capitol Hill, shall we say. So here he is going after the Chicago mayor. Watch.
You're the mayor. You don't have the math in front of you.
It's 1% of the overall budget over the last 4 years.
That's why you're a failing
which
mayor.
is the
Mayor
same
Adams,
number that
how
was
much did
sent
the city
from
of
us
New
from
York
the
actually
state
spend
of
on
Texas.
illegal immigration?
$6.9 billion of taxpayers.
$6.9 billion of taxpayer money on a problem that was fostered on the American people. Mayor Wu, in the city of Boston, how much did you spend?
We don't ask about immigration status and delivering city
You don't
citizens,
ask
so
about
we
how
don't
much
have
money
that
the city
number.
of Boston has spent on illegal immigration.
We
Are you
don't
out of your
distinguish
mind?
between immigration status.
Do you
as
manage
part
your
of our
budget
city
or not,
policies.
Mayor Wu?
That is how we keep
Mayor
our city
Wu,
safe.
do you manage
we
your
have
budget
the
or not?
numbers to prove it.
And just understand that your mayor does not care how much of your resources she has spent on people who are not citizens
The city of Boston
the city of
is
Boston.
sick of
Libertarians of the modern era, Milton Friedman famously said, you can either have open borders or a welfare state, but you have to choose. Mr. Beer, what do you choose?
Milton Friedman said he wanted to allow illegal immigration to continue. I disagree with Milton Friedman's position on that. We should have legal immigration and build a wall around the welfare state, not around the country. That's in the best interest of taxpayers.
And I would argue that under the current system where you have sanctuary cities popping up, it is not possible to build that wall. So America has to choose. Mr. Beer, you're done. America has to choose between securing our nation or protecting the taxpayer. I choose secure the nation. I yield back.
Oh my gosh, that was incredible, right? Just incredible. Hey, John Owen, a special shout out to one of, I think, John, You are the largest super chat we've ever had on the channel. So thank you, John Owen. Wow. He writes, if people don't end up in prison for what they've done to this country, no matter what Trump fixes, it won't matter. This administration will be a failure because they will get away with it again, and it will be worse when they get power again. You rock, Trish. Thank you so much, John. And thank you for your tremendous, tremendous generosity. Very, very much appreciated. But, you know, I think what John's getting at here is that if we don't start to change, if we continue to allow the status quo that has existed, that has landed us 30 some odd trillion in debt with massive deficits that we cannot sustain and continue, and we continue to allow a certain class of people to continue to benefit, right? And they're benefiting. They're taking this all the way to the bank. Just look at what happened with those NGOs, out of control. All of those NGOs, $22 billion. Stacey Abrams was running one that got $2 billion. They were apparently handing out appliances down in Georgia, which a lot of people are critiquing and saying, you know what, that's nothing short of buying votes. They had all of these green energy companies that they were creating because they were all effectively, you know, feeding off of this system that was all about who you knew. And they were doing so while compromising our future. And so, John Owens, thank you again for your generosity, but just calling out special attention also to what you're saying there, which is that we have to change and that things will have to actually, people will have to pay a price. And I say this, by the way, guys, as somebody who doesn't have an axe to grind. Like I really, you know, I just don't. And by the way, Trump doesn't either. I've talked to him about this in the past. I said to him, why didn't you put Hillary away? Why didn't you go after her? And he said, look, you know, like that feels Banana Republic-like. I just wanted to move on. Well, you know what? Now is different because you can't just move on. If you just move on, then you risk for certain the same exact thing happening to the next crew that comes in. And so you actually have to have a system that's clean, which means you've got to have penalties for people that are playing dirty. And the Democrats were playing dirty, whether it have been Obama, whether it be during Trump's years. I mean, what do you think Comey was doing with all his honeypot schemes running around? We had George Papadopoulos on the show. I mean, he was the victim of 3 honeypot schemes on 2 separate campaigns. They were going after Ben Carson's campaign as well as Trump's campaign. And it was all because they wanted to get intel on the opposition and who might actually win. And that is not how we are supposed to function. So John Owen's totally right. I agree 1,000%. John Owen saying if people don't actually pay the price, he says prison, for what they've done to this country, then it's not going to work. And so we've got to actually look at cleaning up the system for good, because it's for the sake of ourselves, our kids, our grandkids, you name it. It is for the future, right? We don't want to go the way of Rome, the Roman Empire. I've done speeches on this in the past. People thought I was kind of crazy, but I'm like, I'm sorry. Like the similarities are quite striking, really and truly. And we do not want to end up like Rome. Here's one, Brendan Gale. He is the junior senator from Texas, and he was just fantastic the other day. He's been very, very vocal. He's doing a great job. He happens to be my good friend Dinesh D'Souza's son-in-law, so we like him for that reason too. He's a very, very nice young man with a beautiful wife, beautiful child. Here he is saying, what the heck is going on? This can't be.
I want to ask you a series of questions. If you could answer with a yes or no answer, that'd be great. First of all, do you support allowing illegal aliens to obtain driver's licenses? Just yes or no.
So the city of Chicago has been a welcoming city for over 40 years.
I'll take that as a yes. Next question.
And that's the policy that we will hold to.
Do you support tax dollars subsidizing or paying for the health care of illegal aliens?
I support investments in all residents of the people of Chicago, and that's what I do.
That's a yes as well. Do you support free or reduced college for illegal aliens?
Again, I support the investments of all residents of the people of Chicago.
Take that as a yes. Next question. Do you support allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections?
Again, I'm not over the jurisdiction of that type of law, but again, I'm committed to investing in all residents of the people of Chicago.
I'll take that as a yes. I've got an article from the Chicago Sun-Times, and I'll quote here briefly. Johnson proposed, among other things, that all residents, regardless of citizenship status, be able to vote for Chicago Board of Education members. Next question. Your website states, and this is your campaign website, quote, "I will not stop fighting until abortion access is completely secure for people all over the country," end quote. Yes or no, do you support taxpayer-funded abortions for illegal aliens?
I support the reproductive rights of all people, all women.
That is a yes as well. Your mayoral transition website mentioned support for creating a Chicago Board of Education non-citizen advisory board. Again, yes or no, do you support appointing non-citizens to government advisory boards?
I was invited here today to discuss welcoming cities.
Yes or no?
I was invited here to discuss welcoming cities.
This is a yes or no
If you're
question.
interested in asking me
You're not
questions
gonna
about the
filibuster.
welcoming
I'll
city,
take that as a
I'm
yes.
happy to
We're gonna
answer those
move on.
questions.
No, we're going to move on. As you know, President Trump, unlike the previous administration, has taken serious action to bring foreign criminal gangs to justice, to take our border back and to restore public safety in our communities. He designated 8 transnational criminal organizations and cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. These are groups like Tren de Aragua, MS-13, Sinaloa, other of some of the most grotesque and ruthless and brutal organizations in the world. You, as mayor of a sanctuary city, have been virtually giving favors to illegal aliens. Apparently, you support an enormous amount of taxpayer resources going to them as well. But you yourself have also received a lot of gifts. And for those of you who don't know, Mayor Johnson has a secret gift room that is not given access to the public or for access to the Office of Inspector General. I'd like to ask you a couple questions about that. Do you know everyone who's given you a gift since you became mayor?
The city of Chicago has had a policy for 40
a
years
yes or no question.
where there are individuals that would like to give gifts to
I'm
the city of
reclaiming my time.
Chicago,
I'm going to take that as a
and we
no.
do not accept those
When
gifts.
did you
We
become
receive
mayor?
them on
No, I'm going to
behalf
reclaim my
of
time
the city
here.
of Chicago.
You're not going to filibuster here.
Okay.
When did you become mayor?
I was elected mayor of the city of Chicago in April of 2023, and I was sworn in May 15th
on June
of 2023.
On June 12th, 2023, you received Hugo Boss cufflinks and a personalized Mont Blanc pin. Do you know who gave you those?
So I did not receive those personally. The city of Chicago
You received those
them.
on behalf
and
of the
that's
city
right,
of
on behalf of
Chicago.
the city of Chicago.
Oh my
and
gosh.
every
Okay, so
mayor.
now he's pointing to this corruption. You know, we got news. I talked about this yesterday. If you want, go back and watch the top of yesterday's show, because AOC now is looking as though she's running into a lot of trouble because there's a taxpayer watch group that's come out and accused her of spending nearly $4,000 on dance lessons, you know, so she could get up on stage and do her thing for the fire alarm guy, Bowman, who wound up losing his gig. Right? He didn't get reelected. He was like the honorary male member of the squad. And so she's dancing around the stage. And I guess that was something that she considered an expense, these dance lessons. And so she said, oh no, that was actually an election expense. To which they said, even worse, you can't be using U.S. taxpayer dollars to go to your election expenses. So she's in a whole bunch of trouble for that one. And now this guy getting called out by Brandon, hey, what are you doing with the Mont Blanc pen and the this, that, and the other? So, look, all that aside, it doesn't change the underlying issue here, which is that we have these sanctuary cities that don't seem to care about their actual constituents and the people who are there legally. And that in and of itself is a massive problem. It's why Anna Paulina Luna said, I have no choice. I am referring you to Pam Bondi and the DOJ for actual criminal prosecution, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
After this line of questioning, it's very clear that these policies that you have all implicated are active and alive and well in your cities, are in direct violation with U.S. Title 8 Code subsection 1324, and it is a federal offense. But you all speak about a broken immigration system, and yet here you guys are aiding and abetting in that entire process. I want to be very clear about something. Open border policies, which is something that you guys are talking about, hurts people on both sides, meaning the people that are coming here illegally and then American citizens as well. I do not think you guys are bad people, but I think that you are ideologically misled. which is why, unfortunately, based on your responses, I'm all going to be criminally referring you to the Department of Justice for investigation. And as soon as I leave here, these will be going over to Pam Bondi. I'm not doing that.
Okay.
Effort.
She's like, look, I don't want to have to do this, but I have to do this. It goes back to what John, and again, thank you for the generosity, John. I think you put an extra 0 on there by mistake. I'm sorry. Make sure you get the newsletter. Send Rob an email. Maybe we can get you a free newsletter. It's just $1 a month, but we can credit you maybe that. Listen, John, I mean, this gets back to what you were saying earlier, that somebody has to actually pay a price here and that we actually need to actually see this thing followed through. I will give the president this. I mean, here's the good news. I mean, Trump has managed to do, let's face it, in what?
Wanted to show you this because it's been
Hang on one
me a
second.
little-
I'll just say Trump is, we'll let Tom Homan say it, but he has done in basically 3 weeks what Biden said he couldn't do in 4 years. And I think that that's rather telling and pretty darn magnificent. Let's let Tom explain it.
Wanted to show you this because it's been driving me a little nuts. The Democrats for about 18 months said that there was nothing more they could do to help close the border because Congress hadn't passed a bill. Watch here. This is what they said.
It's the toughest, most efficient, most effective border security bill this country has ever seen.
Democrats were on their back foot on immigration. Now we are on our front foot.
Look, the president has been very clear. We need that bipartisan border security bill.
By any objective measure, it's strong, tough, and realistic.
I will bring back the bipartisan border security bill that he killed, and I will sign it into law.
Look, a bill from Congress might be welcome, but you all have shown in 1 month you were able to shut down the border.
Because we got a strong president. President Trump did in 3 weeks what Joe Biden didn't do in 4 years. And that bipartisan border bill, look, I respect Senator Langford. He called me, walked through that bill with me. He asked me to support it. I said no. I'm not okay with 4,000 or 5,000 illegal aliens a day crossing this border as being normal. I don't want that in statute. I'm not okay with a bill that doesn't address sex trafficking of women and children. And right now, you look at the numbers, what President Trump has did, we went from an average at the highs of 10 to 11,000 a day under Biden to 200. 11,000 to 200. The gotaways that I spoke about, 1,800 a day average under Joe Biden. You know what I saw the other day? 41. 1,800 to 41. We won't be happy if that number is 0, but look at the strides President Trump made in 3 weeks that Joe Biden could have done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Could have done. But didn't. And now you're in a situation where you have the likes of Letitia James or AOC or Kathy Hochul trying to set us up for some kind of contest of wills between state and federal powers. Letitia James is a great example of that. You know, the Attorney General that we all love to hate from the state of New York. Unbelievable. Just a hugely political, kind of frankly, I'm just going to say it, like rotten person. Really, really rotten person. Because what she did to Donald Trump was absolutely unacceptable. I'm sorry. You know I'm a business reporter by background, so this one really gets at me. Of all the cases, this one really stuck out at me. The idea that somehow Letitia James, the Attorney General of the state of New York, is going to come in between an individual and a loan that they're getting from a bank, and that individual is going to say, no, I know what your property is worth. Even though the bank is the one with the money on the line, the individual is the one who's making the deal. That just blew me away. And the thought of, okay, Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million. Give me a break. It made 56 in 1 year. Clearly, she never took math. Oh, and where did she go to school, by the way? I had it wrong for some reason a couple weeks ago. I said she went to Harvard, but like not even. I mean, she could have, because look at who they're graduating from Harvard these days. But nonetheless, she did not go to Harvard. She didn't go to a great law school. She's not a good lawyer. She is going to get her case against Donald Trump. Mark my words, you guys. It should have been thrown out by now with the Court of Appeals. It will get thrown out by the Court of Appeals. They're scared. They're sitting on their hands because of the political environment we are in. But I'm telling you, she was way out over her skis, and she's a bad person for having done this. This is what we need to rid our system of. We cannot allow for attorney generals or DAs to be so rabidly political and go after people because they don't like their politics. It is not the America that we want to live in. But Letitia James at this point in time is now trying to set us up for some kind of federal versus state showdown over immigration. But here's the thing. Go back to the Constitution. If you were a lawyer, you'd actually know this. And the one thing that you'd find, Letitia James, is that the federal government has power all day long and jurisdiction all day long over who can be in this country, over our borders. Heck, it's why Greg Abbott down in Texas is having such a tough time trying to police that border. When he wanted the wall to go back up, that they were taken down, the Biden administration was taken down, he didn't get to first base because you see the federal government has the power over the borders. So that's what Letitia keeps forgetting here. She just wants to set herself up for a fight, probably to try and fundraise a little bit more off of it. I'm not into it.
Not only does this administration's new policy put people at risk, but it is plainly unconstitutional. The president does not get to decide which laws to enforce and for whom. When Congress dedicates funding for a program, the president cannot pull that funding on a whim. Later today, I am leading and joining with my colleagues, my fellow Democratic attorney generals, in suing this administration to stop this illegal freeze of essential funds for our state. We will not.
You see, she's out of money now and she's flipping out because New York's been cut off. And it's going to have to now go through the legal system and go through the food chain and probably go all the way to the Supreme Court because the president's saying, yeah, well, you know what? I'm not going to give New York money, because New York is not playing ball with my border control, with my ICE agents. And I am not able to do the job of the federal government to protect the individuals that live here in the United States of America. Therefore, guess what, New York? You know, it's like a little kid who's just screwed up. I'm cutting you off. And she's not happy about that. She's suing over that. But listen, it's going to take time. I mean, heck, we're still waiting on the Court of Appeals on one that should be a very simple decision there in New York, that Letitia James had no authority to go after President Trump and charge him $500. No victims in that case thought it was worth. Meanwhile, Pam Bondi, who shut off the money, right, shut off the spigot, she's come forward and said, guess what? You're not complying with federal law? We're on to you. And so we are charging Kathy Hochul, Letitia James, and the head of the DMV in the state of New York and every other state out there. We're coming after you too. So try to learn your lesson.
And if you don't comply with federal law, we will hold you accountable. We did it to Illinois. Strike one. Strike two is New York. And if you are a state not complying with federal law, you're next. Get ready. And the great men and women of law enforcement are standing behind me today. We have FBI, DEA, ATF agents. They put their lives on the line every single day to protect us. And what New York has, they have green light laws, meaning they're giving a green light to any illegal alien in New York, where law enforcement officers cannot check their identity if they pull them over. Law enforcement officers do not have access to their background. And if these great men and women pull over someone and don't have access to their background, they have no idea who they're dealing with. And it puts their lives on the line every single day. Violent criminals, gang members, drug traffickers, human smugglers will no longer terrorize the American people. And that is why we are here today. You will be held accountable if you do not follow federal law. It's over, it ends, and we're coming after you.
Boom. Okay? So I think the case has been laid out. I think you're going to have a contingency of people there in the state of New York that are not going to play ball, which is why you had Tom Homan up in Albany getting attacked, right, by all the protesters. He was cool as a cucumber, just sitting there munching on his apple, saying, listen, I take this seriously. And if you're going to stand in the way, then you're standing in the way of law enforcement doing their jobs, which means it's now in Pam Bondi territory. Pam Bondi has already made it clear to Letitia, to Kathy Hochul, and to the DMV. This is where we stand. So now it's going to escalate, you guys. It's going to escalate, and I would not be surprised to see all of them referred for criminal prosecution. I think it's gone beyond the civil state now, because they really are setting us up, and they're doing this deliberately. Like, unfortunately, such is the world in which we live, where, you know, Donald Trump can find the cure for cancer tomorrow, and he's said this, and they will not care. They will not adhere to anything that he wants. I mean, don't forget, Barack Obama was all about making sure we controlled our borders. This was like a big platform in the Democrat Party. Heck, they all talked about getting rid of government waste. I've been playing some sound bites on the shorts feed from Bernie Sanders and from Nancy Pelosi. Heck, they sound like they could go work for Doge today. This is from 2008 and 2010. So they actually believed in a lot of this stuff. This is common sense stuff. But suddenly common sense is irrelevant because it's Donald Trump. And because they hate Donald Trump, they're going to stand in the way of real stuff getting done. And isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? Because, government should be there for the people and for our future, but they are just there for themselves and themselves only.